Thank you so much for joining our virtual business luncheon today with the company KINEXON. I'm so very excited to hear about your safe technology and how it can help manufacturing to restart their operations in a safe way and manner. My name is Mario Kratsch. I'm Vice President of the German American Chamber of Commerce of the Midwest, and I'm so very happy that we have Kervin Blank here today and also Mehdi Bentanfous from the company KINEXON. Mehdi is Managing Director at KINEXON and Kervin is the Sales Manager. Is that correct? I got that correct, yeah, Kervin?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
All right, so you're the one to go to whenever companies have interest in your products. As usual, in the background, there's a few people, our membership and engagement, and also our events team with any questions related to events. Franziska's there to help you. And Matt, as usual, is there with all of your questions regarding membership. As always in our business luncheon, just a few housekeeping items. You will be muted during the entire presentation. There is a Q&A at the end of the presentation. If you want to ask questions directly, just type your question into the box or just raise your hand and we're going to unmute you and put you through. Please introduce yourself briefly before asking your questions. And before we go ahead, just to get us in the mood, we've got, as usual, also 3 tiny short questions prepared for you, the polling. So, Franziska, if you could please start with the polling. So, first question, let's have a look. Distributing right now. Where are you currently working from? And we see the results coming in. So still looking like the vast majority of you working from home. That's interesting, especially here in Illinois and also in Chicago, since we now just entered phase 3 of the reopening plan. So there's still a lot of people working from home. Thanks a lot. Let's have a look at the next question. Franziska. Has your company already implemented back to work policies? And I see the results coming in right now. So 76% we've got responses, yes, we have, and 24 no. Franziska, can we get the next question up and running? Have you ever heard about KINEXON's technology? So Mehdi and Kervin, it looks like the results are going to be a home run for you guys because we've got 89% that have never heard of anything of you. So they're about to find out in a few. Before we start with the presentation today from KINEXON, I would like to welcome David Mueller from PKF. He's the president of PKF. And David, thank you so much for sponsoring the entire Business Luncheon series here in Illinois. So welcome.
Yeah, how you doing, Mario? Can you hear me okay?
David, I can hear you okay, and the rest can hear you too, Dave.
Yeah, actually, it's a compliment to call me David Mueller, but I didn't really start the company, but Al Mueller did.
I'm so sorry, did I just call you David Mueller? Sorry, David Nissen. Of course, David Nissen. Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
Mario, that's a total compliment, so it's all good. Al was a great guy. But no, I thank you for having us sponsor this. This has been great. We love the GACC. We love being a platinum sponsor. So thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome, and we thank you so much for your sponsorship because that's what makes these business luncheons happen and also very interesting. Without further ado, Mehdi and Kervin, I would like to hand it over to you, and we're very interested in hearing.
Great. Thank you very much, Mario, for the introduction. I would like to, I'm going to share quickly my my presentation shortly. If that works, here you go. So first of all, hi everybody. We're very excited to be part of the GACC Luncheon today. Obviously, most of you guys do not know about KINEXON, so it's a good opportunity to present you our company, but also to talk about a very important topic and very new topic for everybody that has bbeen discussed over the last few weeks and few months due to the whole situation around COVID-19. And we will also present you how KINEXON shifted its focus within the last few months from selling products to manufacturing in order to digitize the shop floor, or to professional athletes, to a solution that helps in these severe and hard times in order to stabilize the economy. Before jumping into the presentation, I would like to present ourselves, the team, the KINEXON team today. For myself, I'm Mehdi Bentanfous. I'm CEO of KINEXON US, responsible for the North American, or even the American business of KINEXON, and together with my colleague Kervin Blanky, we are managing the sales activities here in the US for our industrial products. Kervin is responsible, focusing on all the sales activities that we have here in the US. And I'm excited to hear about your question after the presentation. So as I mentioned previously, the focus will be on America 2.0 and how manufacturing can adapt during and after COVID-19. We are living today in a completely different world. Every industry, everyone is adapting to the current situation. We've been asked by many of our clients how they can react to this whole situation of COVID-19, and mainly questions around how can I keep my workers safe and at the same time keep my operations running and not have to close down my business for safety reasons or for infection reasons. We see this, discussions have been on all the levels, from the public, from schools, universities, from sports world, that try to go back to normal, try to get back to their operations and need to adapt to the situation. There are many topics that are relevant here, but ultimately is all the measures that have been or should be taken is to protect from a future outbreak, but at the same time to stabilize the economy. Many of the measures that have been taken are helpful to prevent, but what happens if, in case of an infection, in case of an outbreak, how can we mitigate the risk and still be able to run the business? So in today's presentation, we would like to focus on the measures to prevent, but at the same time to react in case of an infection. And lately, we will talk about how KINEXON here was able to help with few of these measures and shifted or modified our technology for exactly that purpose. When it comes to when it comes to the measures that has been taken, and all the health organizations have been recommending manufacturing companies, but also generally the public, to take and to consider in order to go back to normal. Obviously, the classical one are wearing a mask, the disinfection and washing the hands, the self isolation in case of an infection, but also this, the distance and keeping the physical distancing, or let's say what we call today social distancing of the 6 feet. These are only few measures that are mainly adopted by different parties, by actually the whole public, and also by manufacturing companies. One topic that is not being talked a lot about, but companies have to take into consideration, is what happens in case of an infection. How can I limit the risk in order to be able to still run my operations and not close down and shut down the business for a longer period of time, since the last few months have been tough for everyone and tough for not only manufacturing but every industry, and there is this strong need of going back to this normal course of business. And this is these are the two topics that for us and for manufacturing we see as extremely relevant in order to go back to this normality. The distancing, to keep the distance between the workers, something that that is not always very easy to achieve or to ensure. It depends on the density of the workers. It depends on the infrastructure and facilities that I have. And in order to have a regular supply chain, it is very challenging to keep this distance between the workers and to ensure that the workers are following the rules. Using and disinfecting, wearing a mask, it's easier to implement. But in order for the disease or for this virus not to spread, we still have to keep this physical distancing or social distancing, and this is something that manufacturing need to ensure. Even if they reduce the number of workers, we still have the risk that an infection can be spread if the physical distancing is not followed. The second topic that we would like to discuss today is what happens in case of an infection. I would like, at a company or manufacturing companies, would like to know what is at risk and how many of my employees could be at risk in case of an infection, so that at the end we are not forced to close down the whole business at once and shut it down for a certain period of time that can go beyond 14 days, but really locate this risk and identify the employees that could be infected and quarantine them. And this is what we call, and what is, I think this is the measure that is missing, that companies are not discussing, is the tracing of the employees and of these contacts that happens within a shop floor or within a production plant. So the focus of the presentation will be on these two topics, and also how the KINEXON technology was able to ensure these two measures that we see as extremely relevant in order to ensure the business operations. So let's talk about what would be an impact on a manufacturing, on a business, if the social or physical distancing and the tracing are not followed or are not used. Let's take an example of a manufacturing company that has, in a certain areas, employees that can potentially be in contact of, let's say, 500 employees, and within this 500 employees we would have an infection. There are two possibilities. Either the business has a solution for the physical distancing and the tracing, or not. In case of no solution or no measures have been taken in place other than wearing a mask and using disinfectant and maybe testing from time to time, in case of an infection, these 500 employees have to be at risk, because I cannot trace back which contacts have taken place within a certain period of time. If the business is using an active warning in order to ensure the physical distancing, so wherever this physical distancing is not kept, there is a warning happening to remind the employees to keep the distance, and at the same time being able to precisely trace any contact that happens between these employees. In case we have this in place, we can estimate the number of people that are at risk at, let's say, 50 employees, assuming that, for example, there are 5 new critical contacts per day within 10 days of potential transmission of the disease. We can estimate it at around 50 employees. So in this case, I'm able to determine which employees are at risk and which employees might be infected, and I don't have to quarantine the whole team of the 500 employees that might have contact within the production plant. This could be significant impact on the number of hours or the employee shortage that we have. If we see here, it's 10 times the number of hours that will be missing. And if we assume an average salary of $45 or $46 per hour, this could be an impact in 6-digit or even beyond that. And another aspect that you have to consider, with 50 employees, I can the replacement vote of missing employees is significantly higher than when I have 500 employees that have to be quarantined for a certain period of time. So we see here that the impact of not having an active warning in order to ensure the physical distancing, and at the same time not being able to trace back such infections or let's say the employee that are at risk, could be of a substantial impact on the production, on the operations, and obviously on the economics of a business. So based on this let's say findings, and based on these requirements that we see, the physical distancing and the tracing are measures that need technology, that need help to be put in place, and for that there are different options that we've seen popping up over the last few weeks and few months. In order to ensure these measures, companies are building now COVID task force to assess the market, to see what is out there that can help with these measures from processes, but also from a technological perspective. And localization technology is what has been looked at over the last few weeks. There are different localization technologies out there, and maybe some of you are already using these technologies, and probably using classical one that has been in the market for a longer period of time. And just to give you an idea on what are the different technology that can be used for such let's say measures, for like the physical distancing and tracing, I have here an overview of what is out there that can be used for localization. We go from the classical identification using an RFID barcode, passive RFID tag or barcode technology that delivers a point-in-time localization, but nothing in real time. So these technologies cannot be used to prevent or ensure the social distancing, but also cannot be used for tracing purposes. And it goes towards the precise RTLS or real-time location technologies. So the classical technologies that are out there are the GPS, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth for indoor location. These technologies has been used in the past through sensors, but also in the phone. And now we're looking at more precise technology, because ensuring a 6 feet or 7 feet distance requires a very or high precision of the technology, but at the same time also a real-time location, so that a warning can take place if the distance is not met. And this is where KINEXON has been focused on in the past, is on the UWB. You see it on the right-hand side, or so-called ultra-wideband technology that delivers real-time data, that delivers a precision of around 4-inch accuracy. So I know exactly where the person is in real time, and it's very reliable because it's a radio frequency that are not in use so far in any manufacturing and nowhere, so that you don't have any interferences. So the combination of the precision, the real-time readiness, but also the reliability makes it the right technology to be used, especially in this case of physical distancing and tracing. This is a let's say a summary of what I just mentioned about the ultra wideband technology. We've been in the market now for a longer period of time, for almost 8 years, using location technology in order to track things in real time. As you can see here on the slide, in order to track sports teams or professional athletes and deliver information about their movement, to manufacturing sites where we track assets or people or vehicles like forklifts or AGVs, in order to deliver information about the material flow, the process analysis, or to track the assets at any point of time. And what we modified here is basically we go from tracking the real location of a thing, or an asset or a person, to track the distance between the persons. So this has been a very small modification that we had to do in our technology in order to ensure the physical distancing and ensure the tracing. It's basically not knowing where the person is, but actually knowing what contact did the person have and what distance was it kept between the persons at any point of time. And this is what basically is needed in order to ensure the physical distancing and identify the contacts for tracing purposes. Just a brief description here of what exactly the technology is. We're talking about a sensor technology. It's a very light, small sensor, that the same sensor that the NBA teams or professional athletes are using to tracking their movement is used here for the employees to track the distance to other employees around them. The sensor is placed somewhere on in a badge or on a wristband, and as soon as it's worn by the employee, we are able then to track any contact that this employee has with his surroundings. And as I mentioned before, the warning is the first step to prevent the physical distancing. The tracing is what comes out of the technology, and this is a description of our technology, but this applies to many other technologies out there. So it's not only KINEXON that invented the wheel here. We're just using a very unique technology, but the positioning or the contact tracing is something that comes out of whatever I'm tracking and whatever contacts are made that I can identify with any technology out there. How the warning works is basically you have the sensor has two functionalities. It has an optical warning with a light changing depending on the distance I'm having with other to other employees, and a sound alarm in case I'm too close to a person and I'm spending too much time within this distance. Since the longer I'm spending within a distance to an employee, the higher is the likelihood that I get the virus transmitted. And that's why as soon as the more than 5 seconds in this case is spent within 6 feet, then a sound alarm is emitted by the sensor to remind the employee not to stay close to that person and to go away. The technology implementation is very easy. It's basically the sensor is distributed to the employee before starting the shift, is attached to a badge or on a wristband, and as soon as the employee receives the sensor, the measurement to other sensors around him is already functioning. And what happens within this shift, or when contacts are happening, the sensor records every contact. So I know basically every contact that happened at any point of time to other sensors. I know the distance that has been measured between these sensors, and at the same time I know how much time did I spend within each of these contacts. So we record this information, we upload the information into a database, and basically we use this information is only useful in case of an infection, so that immediately within seconds I know which persons are at risk and which employees I have to identify and I have to quarantine. And this is what we see as extremely valuable, is to have this information and react immediately in case of an infection. One topic is important to mention here, and that it has been a concern within many companies, is the data privacy. And this is one of the uniqueness that we will see compared to other technologies out there. Everyone heard about the phone apps that has been developed in order to do this kind of tracing. And one of the concerns has been always the data privacy. What happens with this information, and do other people know about my movement, about what I'm doing? And this has been a very important aspect that we worked on while developing the solution, is to have a very high data privacy. Means we do not have, or at any point of time, should a person have access to the information about a specific employee. So what we did there is we anonymize all the data. So within the system, it is impossible to know which person is wearing which sensor and which person is basically having contact with whom. This information is anonymized within the system, and only designated responsible, usually HR manager or even on a management level, have access to the sensor allocation to the employee names, and it's only be used in a very solid process. In case of an infection, they are only the ones that can identify which employees are at risk, or which employee has to be quarantined. So the system itself, and even if you have hundreds of people having access to the system, will never show which information belongs to which employee. And again, just to make it clear, what the employee is doing, how he's moving, what he's exactly doing. This is something we're not tracking here. We don't know that. What we are tracking and the information that we're collecting are only the contacts to other employees, and this is really the only information that is recorded, so that it's only be used for the contact tracing in case of an infection. So as you can see, this technology and again any other technology that ensure the physical distancing, provide a warning in case that this physical distancing is not kept, and at the same time give me information about any of contacts that are happening and who is at risk in case of an infection. That adds value for the employees, that increases the safety of the employees and give them a better feeling to go back to work without having the risk of an infection, or let's say of reduced risk of an infection. It helps starting or restarting the business immediately without having to think about how many people do I have to, or how many employees can I get back to work? Do I need to get back with a reduced number of employees and with a reduced production or operations? As we mentioned with the tracing, is to avoid expensive downtimes in case of an infection and limit the risk to really the areas and the employees that are really at risk in case of an infection. So we see that technologies like this needs to be implemented, or a lot of companies that are implementing them in order to go back to work. I mentioned before different technologies out there that are used for the warning and the contact tracing, and the main or most of these technologies that are Bluetooth based and use the phones or phone applications. That is 90% of what's out there in terms of physical distancing and tracing solutions. There are limitations with these apps and with these technologies. First of all, the employees have to carry a smartphone, so we need to make sure that every employee has a smart device and have the application activated and working. But the main concern that we see here is how reliable is the data. That's the same topic that governments have, is okay, even if we implement a tracing technology, how good is the information that we're having, and how good does the warning work, but also the tracing? Am I missing data points? Are we calculating the distances and identifying the people at risk correctly? The challenge here is that these apps or these devices use usually Bluetooth, LTE, or Wi-Fi, and these technologies are known for being not providing the right accuracy of the data. So we depending on where you are, depending what is the environment, it could go up in the 1 to 2 feet accuracy, which is in this case not really helpful. But more importantly is the interferences that you have with such technologies, especially in a manufacturing environment, are usually so significant that I'm losing a lot of data points. So in a manufacturing that has other technology that use Bluetooth, other technology that use Wi-Fi, that have a lot of metal and a lot of machineries, the Bluetooth might sometimes disappear for a longer period of time, so that I'm missing a significant number of data points, and the data quality in this case is really not the one we would like to have. The other main concern with the WANNG-APP technologies is the data protection. As I mentioned, these apps do collect information about the whereabouts, but also information about the employees, and there have been a lot of discussions and concerns about how really private is the data of these apps. These are the three main points, in my opinion, that makes a sensor technology, if it's KINEXON or another technology, it doesn't matter, more valuable for this physical distancing and contact tracing in general. As I mentioned before, we've been this product that we brought out with the so-called SafeZone product. It's not a completely new product that we developed. We've been working on the location technology for a longer period of time, since 2012, out of Munich, Germany, and we have different solutions that we implemented in manufacturing, especially with large manufacturing companies like BMW, Continental. We've been active in aerospace, but different other industries as well, from retail and logistics to steel industry, around connecting the shop floor and digitizing the shop floor with a very precise location technology. So this ultra wideband sensors that you can see here on the second picture, different sensors for people, sensors for vehicles like forklifts, sensor for assets, is really to connect the whole shop floor and to have a better visibility on the production process, the inventory process, to automate the inventory process, for instance, but also to increase the productivity, knowing where are the gaps, knowing what is the exact material flow, but also decrease simple things like decrease the search time, because with the technology I know exactly an inch accurate where my stuff is and where is something located, so that it has a significant impact on our productivity and efficiency. Since we've been founded in 2012, we grow to 200 employees. We have more than 300 projects currently that we realized in 12 countries. We've been in the US since 2016, with offices in Chicago and New York. We're very active in the US, also in the sports world. We are the largest provider of tracking or location technology in the NBA, with more than 23 teams. We work with several NFL teams, NHL and NCAA. There we track players in order to track their performance, but also track them to get new type of statistic to enhance the fan engagement and the broadcasting. So we provide real-time data, very precise data on how fast the player is, how fast his acceleration, how high is his jump, how explosive is the player, based on the positional data that we're collecting. And at the same time, together with Kervin, we are servicing the manufacturing and logistic world in order, as I said, to track not only now employees with the SafeZone product, but also assets and vehicles. Our experience has been very strong in aerospace, in automotive, but also in the food industry, or in the logistic industry. So the technology can be used in different environments, and has been very valuable for the companies that we worked with, in terms of ROI, in terms of increasing productivity and efficiency. One uniqueness of KINEXON is that we do everything in-house, from the manufacturing of our sensor and the hardware to the development of the real-time IoT platform and the analytics. So out of the 200 employees we have, I would say it's more than 40% are in R&D department between hardware, firmware, and software. And this is one of the advantages we saw in developing the SafeZone product, that we really developed within 3 weeks and brought to market within 3 weeks, and that we have now implemented with several larger companies in Europe as well as the US, is the ability, since we have everything in-house, to react very quickly and bring such a new product to the market within a very short period of time. To finish the presentation, I wanted to share with you what are the other areas that we have deployed the technology. I mentioned before the search and find as an application, track and trace, the automation, inventory automation systems where I can track my products in real time within the production plant, but also within the inventory, the material supplier, material flow analysis, to automated tool management, since I can track the product and the tools at the same time. So the location technology in general, and especially the ultra wideband that delivers this reliable type of data, is exactly the right technology in order to connect the shop floor. But now with the whole COVID-19 situation, we added one more aspect, is the safety and of the employees, together with the tracing, which will ensure a continuation of the production and of the business. So I come to an end. I hope that was helpful to understand the requirements that are needed for manufacturing companies to ensure the safety of the employees, but at the same time also ensure continuity of their operations. And I hope that also we have now a better idea about what KINEXON is and how we were able to help in these tough times to help our clients and also new clients to go back to normal. Thank you very much.
Mehdi, thank you so much. I would like to open it up right now for questions. Remember, whenever you have a question, just raise your hand or type your question into the question box that you see. We would like to open that up right now, and then we're going to put you through and unmute you. So far, we don't have any questions. So here is my 5 cents. Mehdi, what I find amazing is that you were able to use existing technology that you already had out there and adapt it to, or easily adapt it to, the needs that we are facing right now. And that within just, did I get that right? 3 weeks? It took you only 3 weeks to?
Yeah.
Perfect. Because here is the thing, I'm following the news in Germany, and they still don't have the Corona app for the cell phones up and running. So that takes a little longer. But also given the fact that you always also wrap your head around data privacy and protection, because I assume and I imagine, first of all, there is a legal implications that you have with that. Second, for all of the companies, there is some concerns that your employees might have with that. But you came up with a solution that covers all of those aspects. I just find that amazing. You were referring to some of the companies that you are already cooperating with. I assume most of them over there in Germany. What is, the industries and companies? Is there a trend that you are working within the United States right now?
Yeah. So first of all, to address the privacy topic, as you know, Germany and Europe has the highest requirement when it comes to data privacy, significantly higher than what we see here in the US. So that's why it was a very main concern from the beginning to be able to be GDPR compliant and also meet these requirements. So that helped us also a lot of having a certain data privacy requirement that meets the US needs. In terms of what companies we work with, especially when we're talking about SafeZone, we implemented SafeZone the same time as Germany, and we see the same interest. The number of clients we have here now with SafeZone is even higher than what we see in Germany, especially because of being able to implement it faster, and especially because of the data privacy concerns that are not really sometimes not really relevant here in the US, that made us possible to implement it faster than back in Europe. When it comes to industries, it's really interesting. It really doesn't matter. Like every industry is interested in the technology. We're seeing not only automotive, we're seeing, as I said, the classical one that we worked on with the aerospace and automotive, but also the steel industries. We see the food industry extremely concerned about the topic, the shortage in the food industry, and being able to keep their production going is extremely important, especially in these times. But also in the sport industry, we're as of now talking to one sports league that would like to go back to the game, and they would like to ensure this for their players as well as for their employees. The beauty of the technology is that it doesn't require any infrastructure. It's just really a sensor that has to be placed. So you can use it everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's outdoor, if it's indoor, as long as you ensure that everybody is wearing the sensor. It is easy to deploy. So yeah.
Maybe we've got questions from the audience here, and I would like to, unmute, or in case we cannot, read the question to you and then come up with an answer. The first question we have from Melanie, and I unfortunately cannot unmute Melanie, so I'm going to read out her question. Is there a limit of employees using the tags?
No, there aren't. So basically, because we're collecting just the contact that the sensor has, so that the volume of data that we're collecting is very limited. So that's why what I can share with you, we are talking right now about implementation of 50, 70, 100,000 employees. So there is no limitation. What's important in such big implementation is how you implement, how is the operational process, right? What companies have to take care of, and this is the biggest challenge. Is not the technology, the limitation of the technology. It's more how the sensors are handed over to the employees. These sensors have to be disinfected, right? They have to be collected at some point to read them out or to charge them. So there is a change in the processes within the companies that have to take place, but companies are aware of it. I mean, these are new times, right? So we need to adapt to the situation, from disinfecting the employees themselves and providing them with masks, this has to be considered.
Thank you. Melanie, I hope this answers your questions, because it was a straightforward note. There is no limit in terms of technology. There is additional things to the left and to the right that you have to pay attention to, but good. Andreas has a question, and Andreas, I'm gonna unmute you right now, so feel free to ask your question. There you go, Andreas. Can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
My name is Andreas Günther, and I'm from ICS for Automotive. And usually I travel once a year to Germany. And at the moment, we still have some travel restrictions. And I know that one of my biggest problem is the airlines. They have some trouble to set up some protocols, how they handle their passengers. Because in an airplane, it's not possible to keep always a distance from more than 6 feet. So I thought, or I could imagine if you can give to every passenger one of your sensors and collect the sensors at the end of the flight. You can be, I think it's possible, or is it possible to say, okay, if passenger X has or got the disease after the flight, they test this passenger positive, they can probably say, okay, who was close to this person during the flight, and warn this other passenger and warn these other passengers. Yeah. Is this possible?
Absolutely, absolutely. So in this case, the information is it's not, the technology wouldn't be used for physical distancing, because you cannot ensure any 6 feet within the plane usually, if depending on how many people are on the plane. But for the tracing purposes, absolutely. So and that's why the implementation in public areas, we see it as a big challenge using tracing apps, because not only in not only in the airplane, but also in restaurants, or in for instance, in theaters in the future for public events. How do you ensure that everybody has the phone and a smartphone has a contact app tracing on it, and also is activating his location? So if you in a closed environment, whatever the closed environment is, if it's an airplane, if it's a public room, the sensor technology is, and again, we're talking about sensor in general, not only about KINEXON, to hand over a sensor at least to get the tracing, would be a huge value add to all these companies and all these bodies. That's why the discussion for KINEXON right now, it's also shifting from talking only to manufacturing companies, but also to governmental bodies and also companies like the airlines, in order to be part of the solution when it comes to the tracing topic.
Maybe Andreas, thank you for your question. I hope that was answered.
Yeah, I hope you can implement your solution very soon into the airlines, that I can fly home again.
Okay.
I hope so too.
Yeah, maybe thanks a lot for your answer, because that seamlessly translates or transitions into a question we got from Michelle. Michelle, I'm gonna unmute you and feel free to ask your questions. Michelle, here we go.
Okay, so I'm Michelle Halfan with Ford Engineering North America, and one of the problems is once your employees go home, they're exposed to many other people, and the physical distancing still needs to apply, but it's still a risk to our business. I was wondering if you're currently working with any municipalities in conjunction with some corporations to include at-home wear or use of these tags, or if that's still coming at a later date.
Yeah, it's a very good question. That's what I just mentioned before. Is we're shifting also our talks from only with manufacturing companies where you have closed environments, to what happens beyond that in public, and we're talking to governmental bodies, not for the sensor technology, because obviously you cannot implement a sensor technology everywhere in a whole city, for instance, but for the contact tracing. So the application that we developed, besides the sensor, is an application that can be used by any by any person or anybody if we have the information about the location. So we can use the data that is in this case phone data or smartphone data, and run it through our algorithms through the application, and provide the same type of tracing that we provide for manufacturing companies.
So you don't think there's a existing infrastructure in cities or in homes that could be used to have the tags and charge them, and log in somewhere and say I'm card number 167, and you're notified when some other card comes down with a COVID situation, sickness?
Yeah, theoretically it's possible. The only challenge here is how can you implement it everywhere, and how can you hand over such sensors to everybody and get the let's say the approval by everybody to wear such sensors. So we found it extremely challenging. And honestly, this challenge can be also within a manufacturing company where the employees are not convinced of that is valuable for their safety, and you have a pushback on wearing the sensors. So technically speaking, it is possible, but in implementing it, you have a lot of challenges to overcome in order to implement it in a very big scale. Right.
Thank you so much, Mehdi. Michelle, is that an answer to your question?
Yes, it certainly is. This has been really great information. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Mehdi, you focused a little bit on the implications in terms or when you get pushback from your employers, because that might be also a challenge that you might be facing whenever you want to open up your manufacturing. We don't have any more questions here. Feel free to type in your question if you have one. But other than that, I would like to also point you towards our COVID-19 hub that we have. We've got a lot of, information and documents across the states, across the Midwest of the United States, from also our membership network, also a lot of, service providers and law firms, where you will find useful information in, how to implement those policies once you get back to work, once you reopen. Because as Mehdi mentioned before, the technology is the one thing, policies, coming up with policies that keep you as a company happy, but also keep your employees happy. That is another very important thing. And at some point, you will definitely have to make a decision one way or another. I see another question from Andreas. Just a moment, Andreas, I just unmuted you.
Yeah, it's me again. I have a question. I think you use a rechargeable battery for your little sensors. Is it easily to replace the battery, or is it a battery?
No, it's not. The battery cannot be switched, changed. It's embedded into the sensor. We have a very long battery lifetime, so these sensors are used over years. So, but for this purpose, these batteries have to be, or the sensor have to be charged after 10 hours of use, because we're collecting a lot of data on the sensor itself. We have different options for the chargings. Either there are companies that say we would like to have an individual charging, so we'd like to have every employee having his own sensor. He goes back to home, he can charge it at home, and we don't have a process within the manufacturing plant to hand over these sensors. So if we're talking about a logistics center with hundreds or sometimes thousands of employees, you would like to have this, not a centralized process. But more of the companies we work with right now, they have the centralized charging. I showed it in one of the slides, where you have a charging pad, you put the sensor in there, it starts charging, and at the same time it uploads the data. So So the charging has to happen every 10 to 12 hours. So in the US, there are shifts of 12 hours, so it have at least to last these 12 hours. But we're not able to change the battery from the sensor itself.
Yeah, what I think it's always a little bit sad. Your sensor probably lasts much longer than the battery. So if the battery is broken or end of lifetime, I have to throw away your whole sensor, including the battery. And I have this with phones and all kinds of other little sensor technology. I think it's pretty sad, and it's, in my opinion, not so good for our environment that we throw away totally technology which is totally okay. Only the battery is the problem. That's the weak point.
Yeah, I mean the battery lifetime is over 5 years. So we have now clients using the sensors over 5 years, and we still didn't switch them. But obviously we recycle the sensors. So and in case the sensors or the battery is not functioning anymore, we do not throw anything out. The sensor are replaced usually with a new battery. We have, and it depends on. This is a case where we're tracking people, right? So this specific sensor that I showed you today is for people tracking. There are other sensors that we have in place that have a battery that doesn't have to be recharged for 5 years, so that use a little of the battery. So especially for asset tracking, where you have a higher deployment of sensors, the batteries do not have to be charged within, has a better lifetime of 5 years, and these last even longer. So, but yeah, obviously, if we are dependent on a lithium battery as of now, it is off. If you look at the sensor itself, half of the size is the battery, and the other half is the sensor itself. So it's a significant part of the sensor. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andreas, for your question, and thank you, Mehdi. I don't see any other questions here, and we're also at the end of our business luncheon. Mehdi and Kervin, thank you so much. Keep up the good work, literally, because that is much needed right now. Thank you so much to the audience for joining us today. You will find the presentation and also a recording of that business luncheon on our website. There is 3 events in the future that I would like to announce. Have a look at our website. You can find all the information there. Our friends from the Minnesota chapter are going to have their first ever virtual networking tomorrow. So if you're interested on that, check it out. On June 16th, we're going to have the next installment of our Business Luncheon series with the focus on Michigan. And we're very happy to have Josh Hunt, the Executive VP from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, speaking and in providing us with the latest updates on the support programs that the state of Michigan has in place for companies right now. Future. We also have, and mark your calendars, our SME Forum, our annual event, an entire day packed with information for companies. That's going to happen on August 12th. So mark your calendars. Registration for that one's going to be open soon. Again, thank you so much, Mehdi, and thank you so much, Kervin, and looking forward to see you soon.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.